Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. This one we are breaking down the Thursday night football slate, the Patriots versus the Giants. And before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out and I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And let's get right into it because we got a lot to talk about. So first let's talk about this game. So this is probably going to be pretty ugly for the Giants side of the ball. We got the Patriots at home versus the Giants in a 42-point total, with the Patriots being massive 16.5-point favorites. The Giants are expected to be without Saquon Barkley, Wayne Gallman, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Engram. So holy yikes, that is going to be bad. I feel bad for the Giants fans in this game, but this looks like it's going to be pretty rough. And on the Patriots side of the ball, Dorsett and Burkhead are the ones of note that look pretty iffy for the game, and I really don't expect them to play either, but it's only Tuesday, so things can change obviously. But as of right now, we're going to operate under the assumption that they are not going to be playing this game, just for this purpose of this video. So let's start off with Tom Brady at 11,800. He's the most expensive guy in the slate, deservedly so. So first off, you're going to play him. There's no getting around that. Patriots have a massive 29.3 point total at the moment, and the Giants continue to get torched through the air. They're a bottom 10 team in the league when it comes to the points given up to the quarterback position this season at 23.1 per game. And they even let Kirk Cousins have the best game of the season last week versus them. Not the best game total, but the best game of Kirk Cousins' season, where he had over 300 passing yards and had a pretty good fantasy day. They're also 29th DVOA versus the pass. And so with that being said, there's like about a negative 12% chance the Giants put up any kind of resistance to Bill Belichick and TB12 in this matchup. It's pretty easy to captain him if you want, because there's a ton of cheap options on this slate, which we'll go over in a little bit. And because of all the injuries with the Giants, it just opened up a lot of value. And really, just besides week 4 in Buffalo, Brady's been pretty rock solid. He's been scoring mid-20s each week, and we more than likely see the same here. So, I mean, week 1, he scored 28 points. Week 2, 24. Week 3, 23. Buffalo, he got 4. That's an outlier. He got 27 last week. I think we see more of the same. He should finish in the mid-20s, maybe even 30s if we're lucky. So, do you like Tom Brady if you want to captain him? I don't have any problem with that either. Probably going to be the most popular captain, or the Patriots defense, which we'll talk about them soon too. So Julian Edelman at 10,400, I like him quite a bit, and he almost feels like a near lock. He's coming off a big game in Washington where he had 9 targets, 8 catches, and a touchdown, good for 28 DraftKings points. The Giants are getting absolutely abused by receivers this season, giving up the second most points per game to the position, just second only to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're giving up 46.6 points per game to receivers. So let me read you a list of the damage receivers have done to New York this season. Michael Gallup had 7 catches for 158 yards. His teammate Amari Cooper went for 6, 101, and a touchdown. Cole Beasley was 4 for 83. John Brown was 4 for 72. Mike Evans we all know that monster game. He had 8 catches, 190 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Then most recently last week, Adam Thielen had 7 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So these are all pretty big games. The only game they did decently well versus the wide receiver position was the Washington Redskins, and that's when they tried that Dwayne Haskins experiment, which obviously didn't work out. So going to get a pass there. They're very bad versus receivers, and definitely love Julian Edelman. Jules is the safer option between him and Gordon. He's just got more upside. He also has upside as well. He probably doesn't have more upside than Josh Gordon does, but he's got the safer floor, and he also presents you upside as well. So I much prefer Julian Edelman. He's also more expensive, but I mean, you can get up to him in this and with all the value on this slate. He also has the second best wide receiver versus quarterback matchup this week, according to PFF, and there's no reason he can't have a big game here in the slot versus Grant Haley. And I also think he's a very viable captain option as well. So I do like Julian Edelman. That's to no surprise of anyone. Saquon Barkley, he is going to be out for this game. More than like 90% chance he's not going to play. So we're going to skip right to Josh Gordon at 9,000, and I do like Josh Gordon as well. So we get about 1,400 savings off of Julian Edelman, and really the same can be said here for what I said in terms of the matchup for Julian Edelman. But he's a more risky play, but he definitely has huge upside, so I would not recommend fading him whatsoever. I definitely want exposure to the guy. On an individual matchup, he will see a lot of Janoris Jenkins in this game, and let me tell you, this is not the same guy from a few years ago. He's been downright bad this season. He's allowing 0.58 points per route covered this season, which is third worst of all corners, and he's allowing 2.68 yards per route covered, which is also third worst in the league. So I think Josh Gordon can have his way here. He's got the 7th best wide receiver versus cornerback matchup on the board this week, according to PFF. And Edelman has the highest floor between the two, but Gordon can hit that big play and break a slate if they can hook up once or twice. He's not safe either. I don't want to make it sound like he's not a safe play. I mean, he gets consistent targets each week, and the matchup is fantastic. I mean, 8 targets, 7 targets, 11 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets. If he can get you 6 to 8, 6 to 10 targets versus the Giants, he should have a pretty big day, and he's much cheaper than Julian Edelman. So definitely like both of these guys. Obviously, if I pick one, it's going to be Julian Edelman, but you can't go wrong with either, and you also get some savings with Josh Gordon. Daniel Jones at 8K. So I know we love using quarterbacks in prime time showdown slates, but this might be an ugly one. So he's been crashing back to earth after scoring 40 points in his first career start. He's followed that up with 14 and 11 point outings, which is obviously not going to get the job done. And now he's got the worst possible matchup in the league versus the Patriots, allowing only 7.7 points per game to quarterbacks, which is absolutely brutal. The second second best team in the league is allowing 11 points. That's a 4-point difference just right there. And the Patriots are also first DVOA versus the pass this season, and not to mention Jones will be without basically his entire onslaught of weapons. No Ingram, no Barkley, no Gallman, no Shepard. It's going to be tough sledding for Daniel Jones here, and I am just fine with fading a quarterback, in this kind of a matchup here. I mean, I usually tend to like to play both quarterbacks in the flex spot in the showdown slates, but not loving Daniel Jones too much here, and I have a lot of interest in the Patriots defense, so it would make sense for me to want to fade the Giants quarterback because I'd want him to throw all the interceptions and get no touchdowns. So probably going to be fading Daniel Jones. That's just me. If you want to be weird and do a Giants stack for some reason, you do you. But personally, I got to give some of my opinion here. I don't really want to play Daniel Jones in this matchup. Sonny Michel at 7,600. He's someone I do want to play. He's coming off a pretty good game here last week without Rex Burkhead, and if Rex Burkhead doesn't give it a go again this week, I definitely like Sonny Michel because Rex Burkhead tends to ruin all the fun here for the running backs because it hurts James White, it hurts Sonny Michel, it becomes a mess. You don't know who to play, but he's trending to be out, so I do like Michel. He had a mini breakout game last week versus Washington where he had 16 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown, which was good for 21 Draftkings points. The big thing here, though, he was involved in the passing game as well with 3 targets where he caught all 3 of them, and before that he had 1 target for the whole season. So definitely like that he had 3 targets last week. Burkhead was out, so that helped too. But it's definitely an encouraging sign, and this season the Giants have been middle of the road versus running backs, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they cannot stop anyone through the air. With the Patriots being 16.5-point favorites, they should be able to run the ball a ton in the second half, and he will see plenty of red zone opportunities as well. You could also get him in the captain spot if you want to be a little bit weird, and if you believe the Patriots get up extremely quick, and Michel gets into the end zone a few times, which I could definitely see him. I mean, it would not surprise me if he had like a 3-touchdown game, because I can see the Patriots just getting on the goal line a ton, and they just use Michel to run it in. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to stop them. So definitely like Sonny Michel here. He's pretty cheap at 7,600, and I think he makes a lot of sense, especially with the projected game script for this matchup. Then Evan Ingram, he's projected to be out, and even if he's in, I don't have a ton of interest. I mean, he did practice limited today, but apparently he did not look very good running those routes. So I assume he's not going to play. He's dealing with that MCL injury, so we're just going to assume he's not playing. So let's skip the Golden Tate here at 7K, and man, I just hate all these Giants. So he's pretty much the only guy with talent that's healthy on this roster, but what are the Patriots known for? They take away your number 1 weapon, and unfortunately for the Giants, he's the number 1 weapon, and he's the only weapon, so you'd have to think Tate is in for a rough outing versus Gilmore, Jones, whoever he sees. It's going to be tough. He's got PFF's worst wide receiver versus cornerback matchup of the week, and I feel fine fading him. They're going to be playing catch-up, so maybe the D softens up near the end of the game, but I imagine Bill would rather make guys like Slayton and Hillman beat them rather than Golden Tate. So I think Golden Tate's in for a tough outing, and again, I feel fine fading Daniel Jones. I feel fine fading Golden Tate. I really just pretty much want all the Patriots here. I mean, the Giants are probably going to score a touchdown. I mean, maybe. I mean, the Patriots have just been absolutely dominant, so maybe they only get a field goal, or maybe even they get shut out. I'm just not too high on this Giants side of the ball, which I'm sure a lot of people aren't either. So I pretty much want to get all my exposure to these Patriots. Maybe you run it back with one of the cheap options for the Giants, but that's pretty much about it for what I want to do. And we'll get into those cheap options later. All right, so now let's talk about James White at 6,800. He is what he is. He's going to get the dink and dunk passes, and he's most likely going to get his double-digit points as he has every single week this season. I see this as more of a Sonny Michel game, but I can see White doing damage early on when the Patriots begin their slaughter, and no Burkhead would be a boost as well, as he'd just be, obviously he'd be more involved in the game plan. So I don't love James White. I don't not like James White. He's kind of in the middle for me. If somehow the Giants keep this game close, I completely doubt it, but he would be in for probably a pretty big game. And he sees a ton of targets each week. 7 week 1, and they blew out I almost said the Pirates, the Steelers. He saw 4 targets versus Miami, 10 targets versus Buffalo, 9 targets versus Washington, which actually the Washington game is a lot closer than the box score would indicate. So, I mean, he's fine. He's going to get the targets. This is PPR scoring, and he's a PPR kind of guy. So, I wouldn't fully fade James White. If I'm making one lineup, I'm not sure if he'd make it, but if I'm making multiple lineups, I probably want to get some James White in there. Sterling Shepard, Wayne Gallman, they're not going to be playing, which really sucks for the Giants. But the Patriots defense, 6,200. This is probably everyone's favorite play on the Showdown slate, and they're probably going to contend with Brady for being the highest owned player on the slate, their team defense. But if there was ever a time to captain a defense in Showdown, this is probably it. The Patriots D has been absolutely outstanding this season. They're first or top 3 in pretty much every single category. They're number 1 versus quarterbacks this season. This is in terms of points given up to the position. Number 2 versus running backs. Number 3 versus wide receivers. And number 1 versus tight ends. And with all the injuries for the Giants and also being 16-point favorites at home, the good times shall roll on, and I plan to load up on the Patriots D, and I definitely like them in the captain spot as well, and you can save some salary there, and I think they're in for a huge game. And if you just look at their game log, 10 points week 1, 37 week 2, 11 week 3, 25 week 4, 14 week 5. I mean, you're pretty much getting a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside here playing the Patriots defense, and it would not surprise me if they get another touchdown this week. So definitely like the Patriots defense, or just loading up on sacks here. I mean, they've gotten, besides week 1, but after that, they've just been tons of sacks, tons of turnovers. They've been getting touchdowns. So Patriots defense makes a ton of sense here. Then I don't know if you guys can hear my dog running around, but he just changed jingling. I'm sorry if you can hear that. All right, so Darius Slayton at 6K. So he's kind of interesting. He's going to get some extra run, especially with all the guys missing. But still, it's just a brutal matchup, and I just hate everything about this Giants offense this week. I wish he was a little cheaper, but this is a brutal matchup, and I'd feel nervous rostering any of these guys. I do prefer Slayton compared to Tate, though, as he's a little bit cheaper, and he won't have as much attention on him as Tate will. And garbage time may treat him well. So don't hate Darius Slayton. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but should get some extra run and some extra looks. And Jonathan Hillman, 5,800. So it's just another Giant. I just don't have a ton of interest, but I have to have some because, Saquon Barkley, no Wayne Gallman. So next man up, Mr. Hillman here. And he saw 9 carries last week for an elite 20 yards and 2 targets. So he did not do much at all with that opportunity last week. But he's cheap. He's going to get involved, but the matchup is awful, and there won't be many scoring opportunities in this game. But he's the safest bet for volume on this offense, which I'm really not too excited about. But he's going to get some work, so, I mean, at least he's guaranteed work compared to the other guys. But, again, I'm not too excited about it. Philip Dorsett at 5,600. He's trending towards not playing, so probably won't have to. And with that being said about Philip Dorsett, that kind of makes Jacoby Myers a little bit interesting. Not someone I'd have a ton of exposure to, but where to go? Okay, 4,800. So yeah, I guess he's worth the flyer. He played 46% of the snaps last week, and especially versus this Giants defense, which has been awful versus receivers this season. Like I said, second most points allowed per game. Don't have a ton of interest here, but it usually tends to be the guy you least expect to go nuts for the Patriots that ends up going nuts, especially in primetime games. Wacky things tend to happen. So maybe you want to take a little dart throw at Jacoby Myers. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but they factored in the pricing there with the Philip Dorsett news. So don't hate it, don't love it either. If you're doing single entries, probably wouldn't mess around with it, but if you're multi-entering, maybe get a little tiny exposure to Jacoby Myers just in case wacky things happen in New England tomorrow night. Then next thing is the kickers, which is Mike Nugent. I'd much prefer to play Mike Nugent compared to the Giants kicker. They're going to be definitely going to be. He's got guaranteed points pretty much, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if the Giants got shut out. And also, if they are down by a ton later in the game, what's the point of kicking field goals? They're probably just going to end up going for it. So, do not really like the Giants kicker, but definitely like the Patriots. Guaranteed points. You're going to get field goals. You're going to get a ton of extra points. So, he makes a lot of sense. He's a lot safer. He's only 800 more, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And really, salary isn't too much of a deal this week if you're going to use some of these punts. So, which I think is probably a pretty good idea because there's actually some decent punts that'll get some run this week. I mean, you can make a balanced lineup. I have nothing against that. I'm just saying you have options this week. Giants defense, absolutely not. And Elijah Penny, no thank you. Ryan Izzo, Matt LaCloud, you're pretty much just hoping these guys catch a random touchdown. Izzo, he got one last week. So if he does that again at 2,200, yeah, you're happy, but you can't bank on it. You're just hoping to get lucky, which I guess mostly showdown slates are pretty much mostly luck. There's obviously skill involved, but you got to get lucky. And then Brandon Bolden, maybe he catches a random touchdown. I can't tell you he's going to. You just kind of hope you just kind of pretty much hope you get lucky with these three guys. Ben Watson, he's not on the team anymore. Cody Latimer though, he's one of the guys I've been was hinting at earlier, so he should get some decent run here. He's only 800, and I like him. He's going to allow us to fit in some of the studs we want, and he should see a similar role to Slayton at about 5,000 cheaper. So he's actually one of the better punt plays on the slate, in my opinion. And the Giants are going to be in catch-up mode the entire game, so he should get some targets. The first 2 weeks of the season, he was pretty solid. He had 7 targets week 1, 5 targets week 2. Not last 2 weeks. Week 4 and week 5. Didn't do anything week 3. He had 1 target those past 2 weeks. Got 0 fantasy points. That's a big ouchie, but there's a lot of missing pieces here, so you have to think he's at least a little bit more involved. So at 800, don't mind taking a shot here. I can't imagine the defense is going to be too concerned with Cody Latimer. And then the last punt guy I want to talk about, none of these really guys make much sense to me, but Rhett Ellison at 200. He is bare minimum, and if Ingram is out, he's been priced, and he's going to get a couple targets most likely. Now he's more of a blocker, but hey, if you can get me like 2 or 3 targets at 200, just catch a ball, and I'm probably going to feel pretty good about it. And look, he had 5 points week 4, so there's a chance here, and maybe he gets a really, really cheap touchdown. I don't hate it at 200, and I think he's worth a shot. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful. This slate is pretty ugly. The Patriots side of the ball is fun, but the Giants, it's bad. It's very, very bad. So, anyway, that's going to be it for the video. Remember to leave a like, and if this was helpful, also leave a like. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And remember to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. And I'll see you guys in the next video.